Hi, I'm Kayla, and trust me, you're going to want to hear this. My sister-in-law tried to steal my babies before they were even born. Yes, you heard that right. Let me take you back to where it all began. My husband James and I had been trying for a baby for 3 long years. Those years were filled with heartbreak, countless fertility treatments, and more needles than I cared to count. Through it all, his sister Amy was our biggest cheerleader. Amy had always been open about her struggles with infertility due to complications from endometriosis, so she seemed to truly empathize with us. "You're going to be the best mom, Kayla," she'd say, bringing over fertility-boosting smoothies and even tracking my ovulation cycle with almost obsessive dedication. "I just know it's going to happen soon." When we finally got the news that I was pregnant, with twins, no less, Amy was the first person we told. She burst into tears, pulling me into a hug so tight I could barely breathe. "This is perfect," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. 2 babies, 1 for each arm. Looking back, there was something off in her expression, but in that moment, I was too overjoyed to notice. James and I were ecstatic. His parents, Linda and Robert, couldn't contain their excitement either. Linda began knitting tiny baby blankets, while Robert started planning the nursery's renovation. They lived just a few blocks away, so family dinners quickly became baby prep central. Everything seemed perfect until my 4th month. That's when Amy started showing up to every single doctor's appointment. At first, I thought it was sweet. If I was just in the area, she'd say, somehow always arriving moments before my name was called. Besides, I want to learn everything about my little niece or nephew. But soon, her behavior shifted from supportive to unsettling. She began asking strange questions during the appointments. "Dr. Santos, hypothetically, how would a surrogate handle the birth certificate? Or, what documents would a biological mother need to prove the babies are hers?" Dr. Santos, my OB/GYN, remained professional, but I noticed her giving Emmy odd looks. James, meanwhile, was too busy with work. He's a software developer with tight deadlines to witness these red flags. Then, one day, Amy showed up with a thick folder of paperwork. "Just some information about my health history," she said nonchalantly. In case the babies inherit anything from our side of the family." That word, however, began slipping into her vocabulary more frequently, as though the twins were partially hers. She touched my growing belly without asking and even told strangers she was finally going to be a mother. I tried talking to James about her bizarre behavior, but he brushed it off. "She's just excited about being an aunt," he said. If only we'd known what was really happening. At my 6-month checkup, everything unraveled. The nurse kept giving me strange looks as she reviewed my chart, then called Dr. Santos over for a whispered conversation. "Mrs. Harrison," Dr. Santos said cautiously, "there seems to be some confusion in your records." "What do you mean?" I asked, my stomach nodding. She frowned at her computer screen. "We have duplicate files, one listing you as the mother, and another showing you as a surrogate for Amy Harrison." My heart stopped. "What? That's impossible. These are my babies. Amy is my sister-in-law, nothing more." Dr. Santos hesitated, then pulled up more documents. "There are signed surrogacy agreements here," she said. "They're dated before your pregnancy. The signatures look legitimate." My hands shook as I stared at the screen. But I never signed anything. There wasn't a surrogacy arrangement. I was trembling as I called James, my voice barely steady. "You need to hear this." Before James could make it to the hospital, Amy had already started her performance. That evening, I walked into my in-laws' house to find Linda and Robert sitting on the couch, their faces grim, while Amy sobbed dramatically into her hands. The moment she saw me, her head snapped up, and she screamed, "How could you try to steal my babies?" I froze in shock as she continued, "You agreed to be my surrogate. We have all the paperwork. You're just trying to keep them because you got attached." James arrived moments later, stepping into a room already thick with tension. His parents were consoling Amy, their eyes flicking toward me like I was some kind of monster. "Show him the papers," Amy, Linda urged. "Show your brother the truth." With a triumphant look, Amy pulled out the folder I'd seen her carrying before. Now I understood what it truly contained. Surrogacy agreements, medical records, even emails supposedly between us discussing the arrangement. Every page was fake, every word forged. But to an untrained eye, it all looked legitimate. James stared at the documents, his brow furrowed. Kayla would never agree to this without telling me, he said, his voice steady but tinged with doubt. Amy pounced on that hesitation. I'm protecting my babies, she cried, pulling out even more papers. Look at these ultrasound records. They're listed under my name. Ask anyone at the hospital. I have copies of everything. Robert, usually the quiet one, spoke up. There must be some reasonable explanation. Kayla, did you perhaps agree to this during your fertility struggles and change your mind? No, I shouted, my voice trembling with fury. She's lying. She forged everything. But Amy had done her homework. Every document appeared flawless, every signature an exact match. She'd even altered hospital records. I watched helplessly as my in-laws' expressions shifted from concern to suspicion. I think Kayla should stay somewhere else until we sort this out, Linda suggested quietly, avoiding my eyes. For everyone's safety. She's not going anywhere, James snapped, his voice sharp and unwavering. These are our babies. I was there for every fertility treatment, every negative test, every moment of hope and heartbreak. He turned to his sister, his tone softening but still firm. Amy, you're not well. But the damage was done. The seeds of doubt had been planted. That night, as we drove home, James was unusually quiet. The moment we got through the door, he pulled out his laptop and started digging through old emails and documents. I'm going to figure out how she did this, he promised. There has to be a trail. I placed my hands protectively over my belly, feeling the twins kick. They knew who their real mother was, even if the rest of the family was starting to question it. Around 3 a.m., James suddenly sat up straight, staring at his screen. The metadata is wrong, he whispered. Amy backdated everything, but she messed up the file properties. These documents were all created 2 weeks ago. It was the first crack in her perfect plan. James called in sick to work the next morning and continued his investigation. Amy had overlooked one crucial detail. James worked in cybersecurity. By midday, he turned to me with a triumphant look. I got into her cloud storage, he said. Look at this folder. Hospital templates. She downloaded official letterheads and forms. There's even a Photoshop tutorial on document forgery in her recent files. My hands clenched into fists. Can we prove it's her computer? Better, James said, a grim smile on his face. Her browsing history shows searches for how to hack hospital records and surrogacy agreement templates. She wasn't even trying to hide it. While James gathered digital evidence, I called Dr. Santos. She'd been reviewing security footage from the clinic. Mrs. Harrison, she said, her voice tense, we found something disturbing. There's video of your sister-in-law accessing the nurse's station computer when staff were busy. She had several flash drives with her. The truth was unraveling fast. One of the nurses even recognized Amy, not from my appointments, but from another hospital where she used to volunteer. She was fired, the nurse revealed. She tried to access patient records. They kept it quiet to avoid a scandal. Armed with this new evidence, we went to Linda and Robert. James presented everything. The security footage, the file metadata, the browsing history. But Amy was ready with a counterattack. She's trying to frame me, Amy shouted, pacing the living room. James works in cybersecurity. He could have faked all of this. Linda wrung her hands. I just don't understand why either of you would lie about this. Maybe we should look into Amy's past more carefully, Robert said quietly. The nurse's story about the other hospital. You're all against me, Amy screamed, her face twisting with rage. Fine. I have more proof, messages from the fertility clinic. She grabbed her laptop and started typing furiously, but in her panic, she clicked the wrong folder. Suddenly, the TV screen, connected to her laptop via an HDMI cable, lit up. Dozens of files appeared, labeled Kayla's medical records. Edit these. The room went silent. Amy slammed the laptop shut, but it was too late. We'd all seen it. Every forged document, every fake email, every step of her twisted plan laid bare. I just wanted to be a mother, she whispered, her voice cracking. They're supposed to be mine. I did everything right. I tracked her cycle, went to every appointment, planned everything perfectly. They're mine. Linda started crying. Robert looked exhausted. James put his arm around me protectively and spoke softly but firmly. Get help, Amy, before we have to get the police involved. Looking at Amy's face, that unsettling mixture of desperation and calculation, I knew this wasn't over. She still had one more card to play, and I had a sinking feeling it would be her most dangerous move yet. Her final act of desperation came 2 days later. Emmy attempted to access the hospital's records department using a fake employee ID, intending to replace my real medical files with her forged versions. Security caught her in the act, and the hospital immediately pressed charges. The subsequent investigation unraveled everything, not just the forged documents and hacked records, but a disturbing history of similar incidents. Amy had been fired from 3 different hospitals for attempting to access confidential patient files. There was even a restraining order from a former coworker whose ultrasound photos Amy had stolen, claiming they were her own. She needs a psychiatric evaluation, the detective told us. This pattern of behavior points to deeper, underlying issues. The court-mandated mental health assessment diagnosed Amy with severe attachment disorder and delusional behavior. The judge ordered her to undergo mandatory treatment and sentenced her to 5 years of probation. She was also permanently banned from working in or volunteering at any medical facility. James attended every court session, watching his sister's carefully constructed lies crumble under the weight of evidence. "I should have seen it," he kept saying, guilt written across his face. All those years, her strange behaviors, the red flags we ignored. Linda and Robert struggled with their own guilt. They had nearly helped Amy steal their own grandchildren. During a tearful family dinner, Linda admitted, "We failed both of our children. We ignored Amy's problems for so long, and then we doubted you, Kayla. I don't know how we can ever make it right." I looked at them holding our twins for the first time. "By being there for your grandchildren," I said softly. "By helping us make sure they grow up understanding what real family loyalty means." Emma and Ethan were born 2 weeks early but perfectly healthy. Their birth certificates, listing James and me as their parents, were verified and triple-checked by hospital administration. Amy wasn't allowed within 100 yards of the hospital during my delivery. From the moment they arrived, my in-laws threw themselves into grandparent duties as if making up for lost time. Robert meticulously baby-proofed our entire house, while Linda stocked our freezer with months of home-cooked meals. James, ever the protector, fortified all our medical and legal records with extra layers of security. "No one's ever going to question our family again," he promised one evening, watching Emma and Ethan sleep peacefully in their nursery. Through family friends, we heard that Amy had moved across the country after completing her initial treatment. She sent one letter to her parents, acknowledging she needed help and was committed to continuing therapy. James refused to read it, but I did. "I lost myself in a fantasy," she wrote, "and I nearly destroyed the people I loved the most." Today, the twins are celebrating their first birthday. Our house is filled with family, friends, and the sounds of laughter. Linda and Robert are holding Emma and Ethan's hands, guiding them as they take their first toddling steps. Across the room, James catches my eye and smiles. That same warm smile that made me fall in love with him years ago. We made it through the storm. Stronger. Our family isn't perfect, but it's real. Every smile, every tear, every sleepless night. It's all authentically ours. And no one can forge the kind of love that binds us together. What would you do if a family member tried to steal your children using forged documents? Would you press charges like we did, or handle it privately through mental health intervention? Let us know in the comments. If you or someone you know is dealing with toxic family dynamics, share this story. Sometimes it helps to know you're not alone in facing impossible situations with the people who should love you most. See you in the next video.